Alright guys, TacticalRabbit here, and Black Ops 4 has been released, but there's no time for caution. Today we're going to talk about the roster announcements that happened last night, starting with eUnited, of course, in this video. It's a crazy roster move. A lot of people didn't really see this coming until the CoD burner leaked it a few days ago. JKap and aBeZy joining alongside Clayster, aBeZy, and Christini, of course. Felony is off the team. He's gone to Evil Geniuses. We can talk about that move in the coming days. The other roster moves that have been announced, Enigma6, a really interesting one towards the Halo professional Frosty coming onto that team. Some of these moves I'll probably discuss on this channel. Another one I'm probably going to be discussing on the EGL channel with everyone's favourite Call of Duty commentator, or at least British Call of Duty commentator, Chris Tunn. So I'll be on there. If you want updates on that, follow me on Twitter. It will be down in the description box below. So, JKap and aBeZy join the team. A crazy change. JKap, a lot of people didn't think he was going to be off the Luminosity core, especially with the success he's had with those guys in the past. But he's gone. aBeZy from Enigma6 coming into this team, and Felony out the door. So Felony's going on to this team on Evil Geniuses, Saints, Gunjar, Fellow, Royalty, and Lacefield. So kind of a mismatch of a squad, but we can talk about that a little bit more down the line. So Felony on eUnited, he did his job. He did what he was meant to do. He kept up with Pristini, I guess you could say, in terms of the pacing, because really why they got rid of Silly was that he couldn't keep up with Pristini's pace that he was putting up with the SMG. Felony did the job to keep in tune with him, and I think aBeZy, that's where his role is being targeted right now, to kind of replace Felony as something of an upgrade. Now, I think this guy's phenomenally talented. I did an article earlier this year talking about the breakout players of World War II, and I put in the conclusion, I guess you could say, that aBeZy, I think, will be one of the, if not the, breakout players of Black Ops 4, and he's got his chance here on eUnited, and it's really exciting to see what he can do. So, if you're not too aware of what this guy is, he was on Enigma6, they didn't have the craziest placings with General, Diabolic, and Sender. They did pretty good at a couple of events, they got out of pools on occasion. This is JP's tweet on his stats. For players with over 25 S&D maps played, he has the best S&D KD of all time, or not of all time, I guess, but for the World War II season, only 2 of the maps he played were against non-Pro League teams, so really mixing it up. He has the highest S&D rating as well, which I guess is the impact. He also had a pretty good, like a 1.05 kind of region KD and respawn as well, which definitely was the role he had to play on that team, and to do it with a positive KD is fantastic. So I'm glad he's got this opportunity. You look on that Enigma6 squad, General, Diabolic, Sender. These guys don't have the craziest experience. They don't have the crazy mentorship potential that the people in this eUnited team do. You put the accolades, you put the experience of General, Sender, and Diabolic. You combine those all together, and they still don't come close to either Clayster or JKap individually. Now, that's not a knock to those Enigma6 guys. They're, of course, talented players, but Clayster and JKap are undeniably on the top 10 Call of Duty players of all time. Probably inside the top 6, maybe you could say top 8 or something like that. But these guys have known to get results out of young talent. Let's not remember the last time Clayster and JKap were on a team together back in Advanced Warfare. The Call of Duty World Championship with Replays, I guess, was also on the team, so you could say maybe Replays had more to do with getting the best out of Attach than Clayster and Cap did. But regardless, Attach was a really young kid at the time, and they take him all the way, not necessarily they take him, but they coached him, mentored him, got the best out of him to the point where he could become a Call of Duty World Champion. So I can see very similar things happen here with aBeZy. These guys will probably mould him into even more of a superstar player than he already is. JKap has been fantastic in the past at getting the best out of his players. I guess you could say the same for Clayster as well. Maybe not to the same extent in recent years, and that's something I'll talk about towards the end of the video when I cover whether I think this team can actually win a championship. So, JKap comes onto the team as well from the Luminosity gaming squad, rumoured to be replaced by Classic and Slacked. That hasn't been announced yet. Maybe it will be by the time this video goes live. Who knows? Nadeshot said that 100 Thieves also wanted Cap at one point, but weren't able to get him due to lacking communication with Luminosity, but eUnited have managed to snap him up, and I think this is such a good addition. Some people look at the end of Infinite Warfare where he had a really poor KD at Call of Duty Champs and they think, okay, he costed his team, which maybe he did to some extent, but without his leadership and without the element of glue he brings to a team, I don't think there's anyone like it who can fill the gaps, can make the missing pieces of a team like JKap quite can. Every team he seems to be on seems to be elevated to a level above what they would normally be. And he's had great success the last few years, basically winning a title in at least every single season. And he had far from bad stats in World War II. We look at the stats here. JKap's at a 1.01 in respawn. In Search and Destroy, it wasn't quite as pretty, down at a 0.81. But considering the players he had on his team, Octane, John, of course, and Formal in the latter half of the year, you weren't really expecting too much out of JKap, apart from maybe calling some strats here or there. He's definitely not costing his team in the respawns by any means. In fact, he was super impactful, especially alongside Octane at the start of the year. Maybe we can get a similar sort of partnership with him and Clay, or maybe him and Arcetes, depending on who takes up the main assault rifle role. He's known, of course, for his phenomenal CTF play, but we're not sure that that's going to be coming back into Black Ops 4. Actually, I don't think there is a CTF in the game as of now, at least. Now, maybe it's gone permanently, maybe it's not, maybe they're thinking of bringing in control, but regardless what the game mode is, JKap's going to be one of the smartest players, and he's going to instill that knowledge into the rest of his team like no one else really can. So, who have we got left but Arcetes and Pristini to talk about on the team for a very long time at this point, back in Infinite Warfare when they picked up this gunless roster, which immediately won CWL Atlanta. They've been on the team now. They were rumoured to kind of split up. Arcetes, I guess you could consider him hotter property. He was a really solid assault rifle and flex player at times this year. He said he wanted to be the main AR, I believe, at some point, but on this team, who knows? With Clayster still on the team, maybe Clay will decide to run a flex. Clay's kind of weird like that, where he'll pick up an SMG or he'll pick up something if he thinks it's going to make the team better, but more often than not, having Clayster with an AR in his hands is much more impactful, and just, especially in World War II, once he got into the kind of selfish slayer mode towards the latter half of the season, where he started putting up some really good KDs, that was when the team had the most success. Towards the end of the year, third, top 12 at Anaheim, but fourth at both Stage 2 and Champs. A couple seconds earlier in the season, but these are at very low tier events with basically no other good teams in competition. Apart from this one, they lost to Luminosity, and I think with Gunless as a fill-in or something. And then here they lost to GGEA Orange of all teams, which is the old Allegiance crew of Nova, Believe, Mayhem, and Spoofs. So, disappointing results there. We'll talk more about that in a little bit. But towards the end of the year, they did very well. Fellow definitely filled the gaps. And you replace Felony with aBeZy and JKap with what they've done in the past, or at least in JKap's case, what he's done in the past, and the aBeZy stats that happened this season. aBeZy is undoubtedly for me an upgrade over Felony, and JKap is maybe the best fifth player you could add to pretty much any team as long as they don't need a specific role, because JKap can kind of do it all. I do have some qualms about the roles because JKap has historically kind of been slightly better with an assault rifle. This season he more often than not did it with an SMG, but JKap on the second AR has been how it's been in the past. This time, with Clayster and Arcetes on the team, I don't think he's going to get that luxury, unless there's some sort of weird meta where 3 ARs becomes prominent, but I don't really see that happening. So I think he'll have to use an SMG most of the time, which might not be bad, of course, very talented with it, but that Evil Geniuses team, for example, has pretty much 4 SMGs, or you could say Royalty has done both, so maybe that's some cause for concern, but they're pretty much covering all bases. So, Arcetes had a superb World War II season. Let's have a look at the stats here. 1.11 in respawn overall, 224 maps, and that's doing it with every weapon. That's basically the highest stats we have for a player that played Flex. Yeah, Arcetes played Flex an awful lot. Him and Denz, pretty much the best players to do that. I guess Crimsix as well, you could say. And in Search and Destroy was also pretty solid. He had like a 1.01 you can see down here. So definitely a talented player, really hot property. I think a lot of other organisations wanted to pick this guy up, but he stays. Whether this was a decision he actually made to stay, or whether eUnited decided, okay, let's lock these guys under wraps before another team picks them up, who really knows? Maybe we will never know. Now, Pristini, obviously his twin brother and his partner in crime for a long time now. He has played assault rifle in the past, and Pristini tweeted out saying that, I kind of wish I could have gone back to AR this year, but of course he's still going to be using the SMG. He's used the assault rifle back in Black Ops 3, I think Infinite Warfare he used it at times as well. Definitely a talented player with that, but super aggressive with the SMG when he needs to be. A very inconsistent player, maybe you could say there are some upgrades to be had in his role here or there, but who knows whether Arcetes would be the same player without his twin brother on the team, so it makes sense to keep them together as long as they're happy to be that way. And I don't really think that their duo-ship was the problem in this team. So then we move on to Clayster. Of course, the most famous, I guess you could say, player on this team, the biggest name. So many fans specifically of this guy, what he's done in the past. Of course, eUnited were never going to get rid of him or do everything they could to hold on to him due to the fact that if you get rid of Clayster, as I talked about earlier, you get rid of most of your fans. But we've got to address some things here. If you disagree with what I say, that's what the comment section's for, not the dislike button. But Clayster has not won an event since the 20th of September 2015, which is over 1,100 days ago. Black Ops 3 didn't win an event. Infinite Warfare, he won PlayStation Experience, but none of the good teams were there really. And then even here this season, in the Canadian Championship Series National Final against, as I said, the old Allegiance guys, they managed to somehow lose to them. So the question is, has Clayster lost his touch, I guess you could say, to some extent? He's far from a top assault rifle, I would say, anymore. You look at the stats from this season, Clayster's down at, okay, a solid 1.07, but you look at the methods, the slasher, the dashies, octanes, formals, assaults, Wolfskin even, right? Rated, Parasite actually surprisingly high, although relatively few maps. Clayster just doesn't seem to be on the same level as some of these assault rifles. Maybe you could say, okay, Arcees was on this team also putting up crazy numbers, but Clay has definitely been underwhelming for me this year. Towards the latter half of the season where he started playing more selfish, he did actually take over some games at times, but his decision making seems to be somewhat questionable. In Search and Destroy, he's not as good as you would have presumed him to be maybe in the past. And for some reason, he also has a habit of pulling out the sniper way too often when he is genuinely not good with it. So if there's any worries I have on this team, it is kind of Clayster. In Advanced Warfare, Clayster, amazing. Right up there with Formula as the best assault rifle in the game, with the JKap in that team when they won the World Championship. Nowadays, you have JKap to lead the troops, you have JKap to ensure that everyone's pulling their weight, you have JKap to get the best out of their players. Do you really need Clayster anymore, apart from the fan base? How much does he bring to the team? And is this curse where he can't seem to win a championship, will it continue with this roster? Is there something about it which will prevent him from going that extra mile? Let's not forget when Gunless was leaving eUnited and eventually went on to FaZe, supposedly Formal had a word with him and saying, you don't want to go to FaZe while Clayster's still there because Clayster does not turn up on a Sunday. He's not a Sunday player. I guess you could say a controversial comment. But when you look at it statistically, how many times have we seen that eUnited has been dominating the Friday, they crush their pools, they look really good on Saturday, it gets to Sunday and then they place top 6, maybe they get to top 4, maybe they place 3rd, but you never feel like when they get to a Sunday they're going to win an event. Is JKap and aBeZy the answer to change this team around? Or, if this team doesn't work out, do we have to start really pointing fingers at Clayster to being the problem on this lineup? That's a question for you down in the comments below. I'm sure a lot of you are major Clayster fans, so if you think I'm wrong and you think he's still got it in him to win an event and there's no question in your mind that they're going to win an event this season, then leave it down in the comments below. It'll be interesting to have a discussion, but my personal feeling is that these guys will make a grand final, maybe 2 grand finals. It's a very solid squad, so much potential. Arcees especially, aBeZy, I think he could be one of the breakout players of the year. JKap always adds a lot to whatever squad he's on. The squad seems to be greater than the sum of its parts when JKap's there, so I think they'll make a grand final, but I don't think they're going to go the whole way to win a championship. So that's my claim for the conclusion of this video, I guess. So I'd like if you enjoy, subscribe if you're new, and feel free to leave your thoughts down in the comment section below. I'll be interested to see what you think. Do you think this eUnited roster's got it in them to win a championship? Now, I'm talking really about one of the main 6 MLG championships. Maybe another tournament organizer runs an event, and if there was 12 events, then maybe I say that these guys could nab one. But with 6, I don't think it's very likely that these guys are going to win one. So thank you guys so much for watching, as always, and I'll see you next time.